Hi FlossTube and Stitchy friends, my name is Beth. This is episode 2 of my FlossTube channel, Stitching in My Pajamas. Today is Thursday, September 7th, and thank you for being here. First off, I want to say a big thank you to everybody who came and watched my first episode about 6 weeks ago or so, and all the kind comments that you left. And to all the FlossTubers who shared my information on their FlossTube channels, I want to say a big thank you to them as well. Without all of you, it wouldn't have made me feel as successful as I feel with that first episode, so thank you so much. This community has been very welcoming and very encouraging, and if you're considering doing a FlossTube, I highly suggest it. Not to say that episode 2 is any less scary to record than episode 1, but everybody has been so supportive that you might as well just do it. Thank you again to everybody who took the time and was just so kind and generous. As I've mentioned before, this channel is mostly going to be about cross stitch and samplers. Occasionally I might talk about other crafts and whatnot that I do or other things that I collect. But for the most part, it'll be cross stitch and samplers. And there were some, I had hinted at, or I had suggested in my first episode that if anybody was interested in learning different things, that would be something that I would consider doing. And after, talking about the queen stitch sampler that I was doing, or the queen stitches that I had done, that I would do a queen stitch tutorial. So it seems like there's a lot of interest in that. So in an upcoming episode, then I will figure out how we can do that and do a tutorial on the queen stitch. So stay tuned for that. Also, I mentioned in my first episode that my day job is that I work for Gloriana Threads, and there were several questions in regards to Gloriana and that kind of thing. So what I would like to do is, if you're interested, I would like to have Anne come on and be a guest of mine and have her answer some of your questions. So if that's something that you're interested in, then leave a comment with your question and preface it with #AskAnne. And if there seems to be enough interest and there seems to be enough questions, then I'm hoping that I can convince her to come on and be a guest of mine. I've mentioned it to her, and I think she's a bit shy about being on FlossTube. So knowing how welcoming and kind this community is, I think she would enjoy it. But if you have questions or there's something you would like to hear from her about, leave a comment and we'll see if we can get her about being on as a guest. One of the specific questions that people were asking about in regards to one of the threads is Schoolhouse Red. And because you're here watching my FlossTube, I'll give you a little bit of inside information. On the last 3 weeks or so, we've dyed a lot of Schoolhouse Red. So some of it should be headed out to the shops, and if it's not already there, and then the rest of it should be headed to the scanners and then out to the shops. So if you've been waiting for Schoolhouse Red, or if your shop is waiting for Schoolhouse Red, if you haven't gotten it already, then you should be able to get it soon, because there's going to be a lot out there. So that's just a little tip, a little inside information, because you've taken the time to watch my FlossTube. Since my last episode, we went on vacation for a couple of weeks, and we are back. And I think what I'll talk about first is my haul. So some of the things that I've gotten in the mail since I last saw you, for example, not all mail, but some things. I'm a sucker for the Blackbird fabric. So these two things came from Blue Ribbon Designs, excuse me, Etsy shop. and this is just a little pocket for the corner ruler with the Blue Ribbon Designs logo on it, and then this little project bag. You can see that I really like the sampler fabric. So these were project bags that I received from Penny and Tunny's Etsy shop. So I have a pink one and a blue one, and these were a bit bigger than the Blue Ribbon Designs one. But anyway, so that shop is the Penny and Tunny on Etsy, and I'll link that in my comments below. If anybody has ever shopped with Jane Greenough in England, she calls her website Finder of Treasures. And so every so often she'll, share things on her Instagram, I think is where I hear about her. Maybe she sends me an email, I can't remember, about, different things that she has on her website. So what she did a few years ago now is she bought a Bristol sampler whose name is Catherine Archer, and she makes different things with the fabric. So here's a little pocket that she has. Again, it's different than the Blackbird fabric, but it's still sampler. And part of the collection is a weighted project weight, I guess. It's a project weight. And I'm guessing that she might have stitched the ABC on the front to match from the sampler itself. And then she's attached these two pairs of scissors to it. So it's filled with beans, I'm assuming, and then lavender. So it smells really good, and it's heavy for your project weight. Here's another little pincushion. I hope I'm holding it up correctly. And a needle book with 3 little gold needles in it. She also sent, or I also ordered, because I had to have the whole set, right? So here's a couple of fobs with scissors. And the scissors come with the fobs, but they're all in these Catherine Archer fabric. And then there are 2 hard-sided needle books. Again, this one has 3 gold needles in it, and it's got these little pockets for little things. And then this one is a little notebook with also a pocket in the back for needles. But what's interesting about this one is I thought this little button up here was just a button, but here it is, a pencil. So isn't that cute? And that explains. And I didn't know that this was a pencil until I was looking on her site for other things and saw that it was a pencil. But yeah, that explains the blank pages in there. And then there's a little ort box. The other 2 things that I got from her was this little pin keep, little antique pin keep, and this piece of Mocklin ware from Scotland. Mocklin ware is becoming more collectible, so it's getting harder to find, but isn't that cute too? So one of the things that I received recently after being at my local Sampler Guild meeting was this book, Sumptuous Stitches and Tiny Treasures. And this is by the Museum of Texas Tech University, and the author is Marion Ann Montgomery. You can go directly to the Texas Tech Museum's website and order it. It'll link you to the Amazon page, or you can go right to Amazon and pull it up. It mostly shows their collection of needlework tools and the different things in the collection. This was an exhibit that they had in May of 2021 through December of 2021, and I highly recommend it. It was very reasonably priced, I thought, and it's just such a great collection of tools in there that they had in their exhibit. Another thing that I've recently acquired just through online is this sweet Swedish sampler. I know it comes from Sweden because this is the name of the town, Sandarn. And this word here actually translates to handwork school. So the stitcher was 12 years old in 1897, and her name was Agnes Wallback. And at first I thought this was an M, but it's really a W from comparing it to the alphabet up here. And I originally thought this was a G, and it's really an S. What's interesting, when I looked up for the translation with this is, the sampler has it spelled SLOIDSKOLA, and the word is actually spelled SLOJD. So even though there's no I here, it's a J. She's put the I in there, so I thought that was really interesting. So just sweet, very inexpensive, so I thought it had to come home with me. So yes, very fun. Something else I received that I ordered online was this sampler throw. This is actually from the Williamsburg shop in Williamsburg. I want to say that Lisa from Lady Huzzah, that this was what she talked about on her most recent FlossTube episode 4, where she's talking about her Mary Cox pieces, and somebody says what about the throw on her couch. I think this is that one. I actually got mine from England, so it went from Williamsburg, somehow managed to get to England and then come back. But so they're out there. I don't know how long ago the Williamsburg shop sold these, but it's kind of fun. During our travels on vacation, we went through Montana because we were on our way to Yellowstone, and then we went to Idaho. And in Montana, we stopped at my favorite antique store to see if they have hutterite samplers. So hutterite samplers are something that I like to collect, and I have, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 pieces of hutterite needlework. Some of them are long tea towels like this with mostly alphabets, and sometimes you'll get a name, sometimes you'll get a year. Sometimes they're handkerchiefs that the young ladies would stitch to their fiancés, you know, about their love and whatnot for that person. Sometimes there's samplers like this. There's one that's red, so I got these two on my trip. This one is her name. She started her name, so it's unfinished, and she started her name Elizabeth, which I thought was nice. And this one is dated 1912, and her name is Mary Hoffer. And the Hoffer name is a common name among the Hutterites, but I've never seen it spelled with 2 F's. I always see it spelled with 1 F. So the thing with the Hutterite samplers, they immigrated to the U.S. From Russia, starting in about 1874, and they settled in South Dakota. And so sometimes these are dated, sometimes they're not. And if they're not dated, and if there's no name, then you have a hard time determining when and where they were made, because they carried on for the different decades. They look generally the same. Samplers that are dated between 1874 and 1918 were stitched in the U.S. So this one is dated 1912. So we know that this one was likely stitched in the U.S. In 1918, before World War One, or around World War One, the hutterites went to Canada. So from after 1918, if it's dated, there's a good chance that it was actually stitched in Canada. There might be a few exceptions from during 1905, when some of the hutterites attempted to establish a colony in Manitoba before coming back to the United States. And a lot of the hutterites returned to the United States in the 1930s and 1940s. So what's interesting about this name, the Hofer, Mary Hofer, is the colonies considered their German word for colony was Bruderhof. So it identified just as a colony. That's what they called all other colonies. And so I don't know if Hofer comes from Bruderhof or if it was just the name. But like I said, I've not seen it spelled before with the two F's. But the hutterites, like I said, they came from the earliest sampler that we know of for the hutterites was dated 1872. They brought it over in 1874, and it's in the Manitoba Museum in Winnipeg. And then in Canada in 1918 is where it is. So, yeah. So the hutterite samplers are, just fun and interesting. The alphabets are mainly made up of Antiqua letters and fractal letters. So there's letters that are missing from the alphabet. You'll see it's missing Q's and U's and like X, Y, Z a lot of time. W's were on there because a lot of there was one name that they had in particular that started with W, so they had to have that. The motifs that they used were crosses and birds and hearts. So sometimes it's letters, sometimes it has their Hungarian heritage motifs kind of thing on them. So just fun things. You talk about American samplers, but a lot of people don't even know about the hutterite samplers and how they were a part of American history. One of the other things I got on my travels while we were on vacation is, so many people love the tomato pin cushions, and we're seeing a lot of charts with tomato pin cushions and that kind of stuff. So when I saw the tomato teapot, I had to have it to go with my tomato pin cushions. Coming from the Pacific Northwest, this is the land of coffee. Well, I'm not a coffee fan. Excuse me. I like tea. So my teapot is still a bit grimy because I haven't really cleaned it up since I bought it and brought it home. But I thought this would be a cute addition to go with my different pin cushions and stuff when I set them out. I think what I'll talk about next is some finished projects that I have. So you saw, or I talked about last time, I was going to be going to a retreat in Montana with my mom and my sister. So that's coming up, and the exchange was something with a house. So here I have my finished piece. It is, hold on, it is by With Thy Needle and Thread, the Friendship Sampler here. That was this one right here. And I have the little metal square that I could put it in, but I think I'm going to put it in this little travel box, this little travel case, and I'm going to put it on, I'm not sure what I'm going to mount it on yet because cardstock's going to be too thin, and I think foam core is going to be too thick, but I'm just going to put it right here over the mirror. And I'm going to take all this out. I already got my scissors to go with it. I'm going to take all this out and put fabric on it and whatnot, but I think that's what I'm going to do for my exchange. I made another exchange for StitchCon that was out of, let me find it. It was out of this book right here, Simone Smalls, and I made this little fob here for a pair of scissors that I put in a travel case as well. Let's see. Here is, no, that's not it. Here's the pincushion, what it kind of looks like from the back. And it gives you finishing instructions and all of that. So I really like this little book. It's got all these little smalls in it. And if you want to see my my travel case and whatnot that I did for StitchCon, if you go to watch Pam Wilson, she is Wilson 3D Designs and Stitchery on FlossTube, and on Instagram she's Southwest Florida Stitcher. She shows in her video the small that I was part of my exchange. So go watch her FlossTube, and it's episode 1 of her FlossTube, and see what it was that I made. I also have a couple of FFOs here that I had stitched last couple of years, but finally got into frames. So the first one is the Heart's Content Margaritaville. It is Fruitful Kit number 11. And here's my finish. So I discovered that the framers nowadays don't want to cut frames that are this little, so I got this frame directly from Marine. And what's interesting, if you're ever looking at these Fruitfuls and you're considering how big they are, they're basically the exact same size as what the picture shows. So you'll know what how it'll actually look when it's all done. So that's one of my finishes, and that's on 29 count Glen Shea linen that Marine likes to use, and that color is Muffin. So that was a really fun, and it's all over one, but on 29 count it makes it very doable. The other one that I have is Jane Elizabeth Milner, and this was a stitch along in 2022 with the Our Sampler Years Facebook group. So they did this one, and then they did their main chart of Rose Ada Featherstone. So this one I have started, and when you get this book, this is an exclusive through Hobby House. So you get this book, and then you also get the chart for Jane Elizabeth Milner. So Hobby House still has these available. And I stitched Jane Milner with the suggested 30 count Legacy with the Appleton's Cruel Threads. Is that what it's called? Cruel Yarn. That's what it is. And I wasn't sure if I was going to like the white fabric, but the bright colors I think do fine with it. I considered dyeing the fabric, and then I just left it. This will probably be the only piece I do with the Appleton Cruel Threads, mostly because I am a floss licker, and I felt that my tongue got too fuzzy licking the floss. So that would be the only reason that I wouldn't use it again, but it's just a bad habit that I have. And but yeah, so this I finished in 2021 or 2022. That's when we started it. So it was fun, it was quick and easy, and it gave me an opportunity to use something small to try out the Appleton threads. So I did start the like I said, I did start the Rosa Ada Featherstone project. That I did not finish in time for the sale to end, but here it is. Oh, upside down. I always have trouble with showing things right side up. So I'm not very far, but this is it. It's it's probably 3/4 of the way done. But I'm trying to remember what I stitched it on. It was whatever it was called for. So, and I'm using the 103 threads for it. So that is that. That can probably go into my, sampler September soiree, right? Since it's a reproduction and it's by, if I didn't mention it before, it's by Hands Across the Sea. The other one, another one that I'm working on is Guidance here by Exemplars from the Heart. I want to say I started this in 2007. Only because I'm using Vicki Clayton silks and the labels have the date of 07. So I think that's when I started it. I am stitching mine, however, on silk gauze. So I've basted my silk gauze to a piece of muslin that I keep in the hoop, and you can see the big hoop marks around the outside. You can also see where I probably basted it too close to the edge, so I've had to reinforce the sides so that it keeps taut in my frame or in my hoop. I'm stitching the background instead of leaving it open, so it looks like it's actually fabric. And what I might end up doing when I go to frame it, because I won't want the silk gauze to show, I might actually stitch around the outside of it if I can, depending on how much I have left, and fill it in so that you don't see the gauze when I go to frame it. Excuse me. It has my name, or my initials, my husband's initials, our daughter's initials, and then the initials of my folks. So yeah, so that should be fun. And I should finally get that finished. Something else I've been working on is Winter Rose Manor. My sister gave this to me as my birthday present in, let's see, 2021 maybe. So that's as far as I am. Again, I'm pretty close to being finished. I just need to finish it. So, but this is Vicki Clayton silks as well. And I think this is her original conversion. I think her current conversion doesn't look quite like this, but I still love it. So one of something that definitely qualifies for Sampler September soiree, as well as the Bath to School stitch along, is Lucy Navier. So Lucy Navier I started in 21. That was my New Year start of 21. I had gotten the kit and everything from Sassy Jacks. They were offering it. It was the Queen of the May, I think, in 2019. So I am stitching it on 46 count weeks parchment, and this is how big it is on 46 count. Well, again, upside down. So imagine if you were stitching this on anything else besides 46 count. So this definitely qualifies, I think, for the Bath to School sale. The only thing I have left to finish on it is I have to finish the French knot tree, and I have to finish the freehand embroidery. And what's ironic about this is, freehand embroidery is how I got started with stitching when I was a young girl, and now it's like my very least favorite thing to do as the color changes on my camera. So I've got all the cross stitching done, all of the over one done. I just have to finish the flowers and the other freehand stuff. My frame, to give you a guide as to how big this is, the scroll bar is 28 inches across. So yeah, so it's big. It's really big. And I think for Sampler September, I'm going to try to at least put a thread in a day to this to try and get some of those French knots done. I'm also going to try and do a thread a day in my my Harriet Salt Bristol sampler, as well as my unicorn sampler that I showed last time. So, you know, maybe that can come out of hiding after, you know, over a decade of being in timeout. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And then the other one that I'm working on still is my reproduction of Selena Dunine. As I mentioned in my last episode, that my sister and I, at the beginning of the year, started a sampler reproduction company called My Sister Samplers. And so this will hopefully be a market release come next year. We launched at market this past year, and so you'll find our things in most of your favorite local needlework shops. And we have a website if you're interested in looking at what's available, but and that too is mysistersamplers.com. But be watching for that. In regards to Lucy Navier, and I'm stitching it with 103, and if anybody's interested in how I store my 103s, I use the sulky box. These sulky boxes come in different sizes, and I want to say that this is like an extra large, but it holds 104 spools, and the 103s fit in it perfectly. And then when you open it, it's like a book. So and they don't really fall out unless you tip them over or something. But so that's where I keep them. And then as that made a loud noise. And then I've taken some of them out of here to use for my tree and whatnot, and then I can just put them in like a small pencil case. I don't have to carry around this, but it has a really nice handle for carrying and whatnot. So one of the other questions that I had on my FlossTube was the box that was sitting right here, where now I have all these other things sitting. So the story behind my box is, so here's my box, and the chart that I have stitched on it is Quaker Virtues by Bygone Stitches, I believe. I could not find my chart, so I know it's Bygone Stitches, but I got this idea from I'll show you the book that it came out of, but this Quaker Virtues is a chart that's kind of in the shape of a hexagon or octagon. But so I basically took and just mapped out a section that I knew was going to fit, and it had the words and stuff that was going to work on it. And I put it on my box. I was originally going to use the rest of the chart to put on the sides, and instead I put this fabric on there to just kind of be a placeholder for it and make it look finished until I got the sides done. But so far, that hasn't happened. I stitched this in 09. This is with Vicki Clayton Threads, and I want to say that it's Exemplar Oxblood was the red, and Exemplar Primitive Black was the black. I'm not sure that she does the Exemplar colors anymore, but if you have, any of it from then that's what I used. The box came because I asked my dad, who is a woodworker, to make the box for me. I originally had gotten the idea from this book. Sampler and Antique Needlework did 2 hardcover books, 2 different volumes. This one is volume 1, and the second one actually says volume 2 on it, and it's a different cover. Inside this book is this needlework casket. And this book was published in 1994, and the chart is in here for this needlework casket, and now it kind of reminds me of a Rhode Island sampler because of the people and the figures and the trees and stuff. But anyway, so there was this casket, and so I'd been eyeing this casket for several years because, like I said, the book came out in 1994, and I think I probably asked him about it maybe 2007 or something. And so he sent me 2 boxes. He sent me his prototype, and then he sent me this one that he made. And I think it just turned out spectacular. And so, yeah, so this is one of my treasures that I have, because I think he did a great job, and I've been able to showcase my stitching on it. So, one of the things that I forgot to mention from my haul is my daughter knows that I like gnomes, and for the first part of July I get a box not knowing what's in this box, and she had sent me this 4th of July gnome. Isn't he sweet? He's crocheted, so he kind of fits the FlossTube theme with his red, white, and blue pom-pom, but I just thought he needed to have some recognition on FlossTube too. So I think that's all I have to share today. If you have any questions, something I might have forgotten from the comments or whatever, please leave those. And again, if you're interested in having Anne come on here and let's talk about Gloriana, then leave a comment with hashtag AskAnne, and we'll see what we can do about getting her to visit. Until next time, happy stitching, and I hope you take some time out of your day to just do what you love. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.